comparison between two types of flugelhorns. The first one is the Tromba. It's a flugelhorn I picked up off of Amazon.com for about $150. It's actually mostly plastic, but it actually gives a nice sound. It has a nice resonance to it, a nice tone. I'm able to keep it in tune, at least up to the top of the staff. After that it gets a little squirrely, but that might be user error more than anything. So this is the Tromba that I purchased, and then when my trumpet was in the shop, I took the time to rent an Eastman flugelhorn, and just to do a comparison to see how this played and sounded and felt compared with the Tromba. The Tromba I'll be keeping. This one I just wanted to check it out, and one day I would like to get me a brass flugelhorn, so I thought I'd give it a shot. First impressions: the Eastman, it's more of a traditional look and feel of an American, what we would consider America, a flugelhorn. It does have a third valve slide. Works well. I find that the valves are a little clickety-clackety. Again, it might be user error. I might be putting a little too much force on them. Playing it more like a trumpet instead of softly as a flugelhorn. It gives a really nice tone. It's a little brassy for my taste, but it's still very pretty, easy to keep in tune, and it's easy to grab the right note as you go higher up. When I miss a note, like I may do when I'm doing a little sample of these for you, that's probably more user error as I get used to this. I've only been playing around with the flugelhorns for about a month or so, so it's still fairly new to me. The one thing you do notice immediately, today's a nice cool day outside, and the horn itself is very cold to the touch, very cool to the touch, which I would expect a brass instrument to be. So this is the Eastman flugelhorn. And the other one that I have is the Tromba. Again, I picked this up. You can get these with metal finish, or several different colors. I thought the black looked kind of cool, so I was fine with that. You don't have to worry about polishing it so much, which is nice. This one neat thing about it is the way the tubing is lined out. It's more like a trumpet as you hold it. And so it has more of a traditional trumpet feel to it, which I gravitated to pretty quickly because I've played trumpet for a few years on and off. Everything about this pretty much is plastic except the valves. The valves on the inside are metal, and so it's been very good, very receptive. It gives a nice tone. It's a little darker, I think, especially on the low range, than the brass horn. I got this thinking it would be more like comparing a flute to a recorder. So I was seeing this as really another different instrument, but actually the two sound very similar. I've played both of them at church several times, had compliments on both with the sound. This one I do tend to have to mic because it's a little quieter, and so to get that nice sound out of it without blasting, I mic it. But the nice thing is, you can mic it without overbearing the other instruments or the choir. It's extremely light compared to the brass one, and it's I won't say warm to the touch, but room temperature to the touch. It doesn't feel near as cool as that one does to the touch. The mouthpiece itself that came with it is it just says Tromba on it. I read that the mouthpiece is actually a clone of a Dennis Wick 4FL. I don't know because I've never had a Dennis Wick 4FL. I know it plays very nicely. It's fairly deep, and I enjoy it. In fact, the mouthpiece that came with the brass horn here, the rental, I didn't like it at all. It was the cup was much more shallow, and so it played a little more like a trumpet. So I really have enjoyed this mouthpiece, and I actually use this one on that horn as well. So that's worked out nicely. So give you a couple of renditions of a couple of tunes, just some standards that you're probably familiar with, so you can kind of hear how the two compare. Now I will warn you that I'm just using my DLSR to record this, so you're not going to get anywhere near the actual sound of the instruments. They both put out a very pretty sound, so what you'll hear on the recording, unfortunately, is not a fair representation of the overall tone. But hopefully what you will hear is the comparison between the two. So if you're thinking about getting a horn that you want to just kind of play around on, kind of like I'm doing as a hobbyist, is this a toy or is it an actual instrument? So I think you'll find between the two they sound similar enough that there is a good comparison. And so anyway, I'll let you judge for yourself, and then afterwards I'll have a couple of thoughts on this as we close out. In the wee small hours of the morning on the Eastman Flugelhorn. In the wee small hours of the morning on the tromba. The lady is a tramp on the Eastman Flugelhorn. Lady is a tramp on the tromba. Okay, so those are the two tunes I played. Apologies to the writers of the songs. I tried to do them justice. Just a little songbook I've got. But between the two horns, so one thing other than the weight and the feel, which is not a bad thing. It's a nice solid instrument. You know, they talk about in cars, you know, the thunk of a good door on a good automobile closing. You feel very solid. This feels very good in hand. It's nicely balanced. I understand. I think this Eastman is a clone of the Yamaha 731, I believe. So it's a nice instrument, a good beginner instrument, a good starter instrument. I looked it up. The store that I'm renting it from wants about $1,200 for it, but doing some comparisons on the internet, it looks like it runs about the $700 to $800 range for a new one. One thing though you will notice with this is it picks up a lot more condensation and spit, if you will. And so you're having to stay on top of that. Otherwise, you get the snap, crackle, and pop right when you hit that one high, pretty note. So I do a lot of work on that. You end up doing the little flugelhorn dance for the second valve because it doesn't have a dispenser, you know, so you got to kind of shake it around. One trick I did learn off of Trumpet Herald is you can take polishing cloth or something like that, put it in the bell, and that really does help keep the pressure and get more spit out. I'm embarrassed to say I played trumpet for going on 30 years, and I never thought to do that. So that also gives you a good indication of the blow coming through the horn. I'll notice on this one, I stuff it in there, give a good even blow. The rag pops out pretty readily. When I do it on the tromba, it shoots right out. That might be the material too, but it does seem to have a little bit easier blow to it. So the Eastman Flugelhorn, and then again the tromba, which I picked up for about I think it was $160 with shipping off of Amazon. It's a nice little horn. I've really enjoyed playing this. I've heard people play this, professionals online, and I mean, they make it sound beautiful, but they could probably put a mouthpiece in a piece of garden hose and make it sound beautiful. So for me, I was wondering what would it sound like with an ordinary person behind it, and so that's why I wanted to do this little demo. One thing I have noticed, and I've read from other folks who have these, sometimes the valves, as you play it the first week or so, will start to stick a bit. What you can do is you can actually take those out, and on the little ring that goes around the valve itself, you can just, that little sleeve that it's in, the little slot, take a nail file and just kiss it with a nail file. Sometimes there's a couple of little burrs on there. I couldn't even see them, but after I did that, the valves work beautifully. In fact, it's every bit as responsive as this one here. It comes with some softer springs, but I like the good heavy springs, so I don't mind that. It's got a little bit of click and clack to it, but oddly enough, it's not no worse than this. So I don't know if that's the nature of the instrument. Probably because these are both beginner instruments. I'm sure if you paid $3 grand for a flugelhorn, it's going to be a lot softer, but that's just my guess. It does have a dispenser for a water dispenser, 2 of them in fact, on the main slide and then on the third valve slide. One neat thing about this, this main slide is actually tunable. So you can tune from here, and you can tune at the lead pipe, which on this horn is just a lead pipe. This piece here does not move at all, which I found to be useful. It helps me fine tune it. Sometimes I would rather do it with this, and I guess it's because I'm used to it with playing a trumpet. Again, it's very light. Really, there's not much else to say about it. I've taken it apart and cleaned it a couple of times. If you do get a new one, in fact with any new horn, really after you get it out of the box and play with it for a few minutes, it's always good to take them apart and give them a good bath and go over there. Because a lot of times, if it's brand new, there could be residual grit or things like that in the valves and stuff. And I found that to be the case with this one. This one wasn't new when I got it, so but this one just need a little bit of a cleaning. I used some of the Blitz on it, and it worked fine. I used pure oil for the valve oil, and haven't had any problems. And I also use their brand of slide grease. It's a pure oil regular for the tuning slides. Now this one, it does tune kind of like a trumpet. You can slide it out. It's not as easy as the trigger, but then I find once I'm warmed up on it, I don't really have to adjust it that much. I use a little tuner that goes on the bell, and I've really found that it tends to stay in tune pretty well. I've been very pleased with it. So anyway, we'll see how it holds up a year from now, but I'm enjoying it very much. If you have any questions, please post them at the bottom. I'd be glad to address them, and thanks for watching.